So with chapter 304 of Black Clover fans unanimously, almost entirely around the world, hate what just happened in the latest chapter of the manga, and I don't necessarily blame them. We've got a lot to talk about, so let's not waste any time, people. Let's talk about it. I'm not gonna throw the greatness in this time. Yeah.
No matter how you move, get it done. No matter how you move, get it done. No matter how you move, get it done. No matter how you move, get it done.
Okay, people, so following the end of the battle against Megicula, Nozel and Noelle defeating the monster that has plagued their lives for all this time, it's kind of interesting that the big talk of the town isn't like everybody celebrating, and I'm talking about the fandom right now. It's not everybody celebrating, it's not everybody going ham like, yeah! It's everybody being pissed off about a certain revival that a lot of people are not happy about. It almost feels like deja vu at this point, because it was around 2 years ago today. I don't want to say exactly, but it was about 2 years ago, more or less, where there was a big outrage over the revival of Julius. Remember when that happened, where everybody thought he was dead, and then we find out, oh no, he's alive, but the spell turned him into a little kid, which I thought that was an okay, takeaway from it. The fact that he's not dead necessarily, but he's never going to be, or at the very least for now, he's not the Julius that could help out. So he's basically kind of useless to the plot. We don't have the overpowered Wizard King to come and solve our problems, because again, he's a little kid with one page from a grimoire, so he can't do shit at this particular point. I felt in retrospect that wasn't too bad, because again, there was a cost. There was a cost to what happened. There was a cost. There was a takeaway from what happened in the battle against, Patri, or, I guess he was running by lip of Patri. With Julius, he actually didn't die, but something bad still happened, and it affected everyone around the Clover Kingdom. This one, to my knowledge, I don't think there's going to be an after effect to it. And ultimately, I'll say this. One of the things is that a lot of people are saying, it doesn't make sense, it doesn't make sense. It's not that it doesn't necessarily make sense, because if you add everything together, it kind of does in terms of Gaja surviving. Like, it kind of does make sense if you put all the knowledge, and again, we're going to go through the chapter and stuff like that. But it's about the stakes at this point. And I'm not talking about the supermarket stakes, fam. I'm talking about the danger levels, the feeling that something bad could happen to people we care about. Feels like it was definitely lowered. But let's start it from the top so you guys can understand what I'm talking about with this Black Clover chapter. Because the chapter starts off, you see all the ghouls that were being controlled by Megicula that, Vonica had killed. Everything is falling down. Again, it's over. Megicula's done. Loropechika's curse disappeared from her stomach, which really signified Megicula is done, because, that was the big issue. That was pretty much one of the things that was a catalyst to all this to begin with, that Loropechika was cursed, and she had, I believe it was 6 months to live following getting cursed by Megicula. So yeah, it was probably one of the most important things that led to all of this to begin with. But that is no more, and Asta's like, hey, we did it, or well, you did it, Noelle, which I'm sure Noelle is eating all of that shit up. Every compliment she could get from Asta at this point is like, yeah. And Loropechika wakes up in Asta's arms and is apologizing to him. I like that. Like, Loropechika is just a little bit different, because again, she's a klutz and she's shy and everything. She apologizes to Asta for being naked. Like, shouldn't it be the opposite? Shouldn't he, like, and he was apologizing as well, like, oh, I didn't see anything like that. And it felt almost like a Naruto-esque moment to a certain degree, when Noelle jumps in and just punches, I call it Sakura punches him away. It reminded me of something that like would have happened in Naruto, and I like that. I thought it was a cool thing. It's not that was created by Naruto, but for me that kind of reminded me of something like, let's just say Naruto was with Jiraiya and some pervy shit happened and Sakura happened to be there, she would punch him. Like, that's what that felt like, with a little bit more than just that, because again, like, opposed to like Sakura, that she just found Naruto to basically be annoying and almost like a brotherly figure. Noelle, she just recently confessed of how she really feels about Asta, or at the very least to herself. She didn't confess to him, but she came to grips with how she feels. So it was a little bit more like, how dare you be holding this naked woman I feel anyway. But I think their age came into account with this one, because Noelle, she sees Asta and she's too embarrassed to look him in the face, even though she just punched him in the face, but she's too embarrassed to look him in the face because, again, she just recently came to grips of her own feelings towards him in terms of, romantically, and how she feels about wanting to be with him and all that jazz. So now she's almost, in my opinion, going through like Charlotte's phase, and in a sense she's basically being cursed with how Charlotte feels about Yami and how she reacts in terms of internally, and that's kind of where it's going. I mean, Noelle has kind of always gotten a little bit embarrassed, but this time it's now she's embarrassed because she knows that she likes Asta. She ain't denying it to herself anymore. And the whole Nozel thing also made sense. I'll be honest with you. Like when Nozel, he's like, oh, the curse is broken now, but I still don't know how to approach my sister. Well, yeah, of course you're not going to know how, considering you basically left her out in the dust, neglected her, and treated her like shit her whole entire life. I'd imagine you're not going to know how to approach her. Well, I mean, for starters, you should come up and apologize. I mean, I think he's apologized before, but nevertheless, another apology wouldn't hurt. And also saying, hey, let me explain to you everything that went down, what happened, etc., etc., so that, you could clear the air a little bit. Like, that's kind of the obvious choice, in my opinion, of how to approach this. Start apologetic, start with explaining, hey, this, that, and the third. You could even do it while y'all running to the next battle, because you know that they were going to be crashing in on Yuno versus Zenon by the end of that fight. Then we cut over to Rill, and he's apologizing to Charlotte because his Hax Valhalla spell is about to run out, which is basically going to make everybody damn near there fall out, because that was kind of holding everybody up, but in particular Charlotte. And when he said he still hasn't created his best work yet, his masterpiece still hasn't, he said something along the lines of that, and I feel like that was Tabata, that he's setting up for Rill to have an even bigger and more grander moment. He's going to have a stronger attack, which is kind of crazy because Valhalla was a very, very powerful technique. He was able to keep people up and all that jazz on their feet, but yeah, I feel like Tabata right there was setting up that, okay, he didn't have his masterpiece yet because he's about to do something even grander in another fight, which that kind of makes sense considering Rill is like, yo, he was the youngest captain. There's so much potential for Rill, so Tabata's making sure to utilize it. Good shit there. I'm glad that he's actually utilizing Rill in a proper manner and not just having him waste away, because I feel like he's always been underused, underappreciated, and just in general his potential felt like it was being wasted. But it looks like with this arc, at the very least, Rill is really doing the damn thing. And I think I've said it before, but I'll say it again. I feel like his masterpiece is going to just be like a drawing of Charmy when she's in, her older looking form fighting. Like, that's what I think is going to be his masterpiece. And Charlotte says, no need to apologize. Remember, we can't die yet. We still got to keep on fighting, yada yada. So basically, everything is all hunky-dory there between them. To which we cut to the beginning of one of the most hated, or probably the most hated moment in Black Clover history. I mean, I'd argue the Julius stuff, but Gaja, he's approaching Loropechika. It feels like, oh shit, he's about to die right there, fam. He's about to die into her arms and confess as he's dying. And basically the Valhalla spell, because Rill and Charlotte fall out, the Valhalla spell is no more, and it looks like he falls out as well, which right then and there, when Gaja falls out because Rill, again, the Valhalla spell that was holding everybody up, vanquishes and whatnot, he technically should die. Like, we've already talked about this before, that he probably should have been dead before even the Valhalla spell, because he sacrificed his life energy. He basically was petrified a la Vegeta after blowing himself up against Majin Buu. But, okay, the Valhalla spell was able to keep him going a little bit longer, and a lot of people even told me, ForneverWorld, relax, after the Valhalla spell is over, he's going to die. Right there when the Valhalla spell ended, he should have died. Like, he had no more life energy. It was a wrap. But Tabata, Loropechika tries to use some recovery water magic, and she's seeing that it's to no avail because, yeah, she doesn't have that capability. Likewise with Asta, he's like, man, even my techniques, my anti-magic isn't going to work because it's not designed to heal. It's, to undo curses, essentially. So neither one of them are able to do anything, and they all saying like, damn, it's a shame. Like, yo, he just did all of this and he's gonna die afterward. But that's kind of how these things are supposed to work. And I ain't gonna lie, it was a little emotional to see Loropechika there crying, and there's moments, right, where, like, let's just say I was watching this for the first time in the anime, I might even be there like, no, don't let Gaja die. But the critic in me, and the person that's looking at this story as a grandiose thing of like, yo, there's supposed to be a sense of danger and stuff like that, would still be like, he ultimately has to die because it would make for a grander feeling. It would, who knows what it could lead to. Like, it could lead to Loropechika feeling like, yo, this is the time I gotta brave up. This is the time I gotta be more woman-like now. I can't be a little girl anymore. This could have led to a lot of stuff. And I ain't gonna lie, the only one out of all of them I felt like was the audience, the embodiment of the audience, and just in general, I love it. Like, I don't know why. I feel like this chapter made me appreciate Noct even more, just because the way he was talking, it was realistic. He even at one point says, like, yo, we're in reality. Like, this is supposed to be reality. Because he's like, yo, there's nothing to do. You know, they fought well. We should just be glad and content that we were able to defeat a supreme devil. Like, that's the big takeaway from this. Like, yo, they did what needed to be done. It's a shame. And he even goes on his speech about, like, how not everyone who's right is rewarded, even though I wanted them to be, you know, rewarded essentially without Gaja dying. Like, I think that's the embodiment of the audience. Like, we're looking at it like, not everybody is gonna survive, even though it would have been cool in a way for him to survive, because, like, yo, it's emotional and shit like that. But we're in reality. He's supposed to drop dead right there. No more. That's it. Gaja, bye-bye. However, plot. Because Noct is like, well, I brought Shorty that y'all said we needed, but, you know, it's too late now. And he pulls Mimosa out of his ass. I mean, out of the shadows. And I ain't gonna lie, the art right there on the Mimosa scene where she's there wrapped around the plants and all that shit, it looked really, really good. I like that scene. It looked dope. It was very interesting as well. The fact that she seemingly had, unless it was an artistic mistake, it looked like her grimoire was a 4-leaf clover, almost as if potentially she upgraded, because remember, everybody trained and whatnot, which also, that's something to attribute as well, that Mimosa's healing powers definitely should be a lot stronger. She should be just like Noelle powered up, just like Asta powered up, just like everybody trained and powered up with the time skip and all that jazz. Mimosa should be on the same type of time, right, in terms of healing a lot better than she used to. But like, yo, fam, there's a difference between being able to heal really well, like, you know, Dende, and Shenron. Hey! Because she says no one's gonna die and uses ultimate plant magic flower princess utopia. What the hell, Tabata? Why are you using all these damn words? But essentially, she starts to heal everyone up, and she says, well, we'll just overrule reality, because that's what magic does, right? And yes, that's true. Like, magic, in theory, it's supposed to overrule reality. It's magic. However, when there's laws that have been placed in the story, in the context of, like, hey, this is possible, this is impossible, this is what happens when this happens, this is what doesn't happen, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's kind of been in place, like, yeah, you know, to kind of make sure that it doesn't get imbalanced, you know, a yin and a yang. Because following that, she is able to heal up Charlotte, Rill, and yes, Gaja. And right there, collectively, the fandom of Black Clover worldwide let out a slight yell of why Tabata, why? Like, in the grand scheme of things, you could argue, you could throw the argument there again, and it's honestly a good argument for the most part, that it makes sense, you know what I'm saying? Like, yo, he held him up with the Valhalla, that's how he didn't die the first time, and Mimosa's magic was able to heal, essentially, I guess it would be his life energy that he gave up, so she was able to heal him back, even though, again, it looked like he was petrified into stone after, you know, the first time he did that sacrificial thing. But it throws the argument as well to show that Mimosa has advanced tremendously. I don't like the line at all about overruling reality. Like, I feel like Tabata thought he snapped. He thought he ate that one. And no. It was just kind of like, what? Like, huh? But ultimately, you could throw the argument, again, if you look at it, that it somewhat makes sense. However, in terms of the grandioseness of the story, it definitely is a very, very negative part to it. It definitely is very negative, because ultimately it takes away a sense of danger. Because now it's been multiple times where people that should have died didn't die, and ultimately it's giving fairy tale vibes, like just like what happened with Julius, where we thought Julius was gonna die, and then it turns out, oh no, Julius ain't dead, he's a little kid. Which, again, that's at the very least a takeaway from this. Gaja is just scot-free. He sacrificed himself, boom, he comes back like nothing happened. Like, yeah, that's not good, honestly. And the way it was even explained, I think it was explained poorly. There was logic to it to a certain degree, but it was explained very poorly with, let's just overrule reality. So like for the simple person that doesn't really understand all of it, they're just like, oh well, Mimosa overruled reality. Like, what the fuck? This bitch turned into Omega Shenron or some shit? Like, huh? So I feel like collectively, a lot of, if not entirely, everything was about that Gaja moment of why the fandom really hates this chapter. Because I ain't gonna lie, when I saw it, I was like, wow. Like, again, it's not as egregious. I'm still going to throw the argument there. It's not as egregious as a fairy tale moment, because at the very least, it wasn't just, oh, because my will to make it happen for my friends is why Gaja's here. Although, in theory, I guess you could argue that as well. But, like, you know, again, there's some logic to the mechanics behind it with the magic and shit like that. It's just the sense of danger is going to be very, very minuscule at this point, because you're going to feel like, where's the threat? Where's the danger if everybody is constantly being saved and reversed? Especially even a minuscule character like Gaja's not that important. He's not a main character. He's not Asta. He's not Yuno. He's not Noelle. Like, he's Gaja. He's a helper for the queen of the Heart Kingdom. He could have died. I don't think the fan base would have scattered. I don't think, like, you know, people would have dropped Black Clover because of Gaja dying. If anything, I think people would have appreciated more that, wow, you know, there was a cost to that fight. Like, you know, Megicula, one of the 3 pillars of supreme devils that they were fighting, killed somebody. I think that would have been appreciated, and it would have added more to Black Clover and maybe brought some people in, like, oh shit, somebody died, like, oh okay, whatever. But the fact that he didn't is going to definitely leave a stain moving forward in this arc, because a lot of people are going to feel like, I can't trust it until we see a funeral service, and even then they might overrule reality and bring that motherfucker out the dirt. Honestly, at this point, something needs to happen to Mimosa, because this is just really hacks. Like, she could just stay in the foreground, you know, in the background, and just keep on healing no matter what. Like, Asa could get his fucking head ripped off, and she's gonna overrule reality and bring this motherfucker's whole body back onto his head and shit like that. So definitely something needs to happen to remove Mimosa from the equation, because that is too strong. Like, she looked great doing it, but that is too freaking strong of a power to be able to bring somebody damn near back to life. With, you know, Gaja being on death's door, he was petrified, he was fucking, you know, he was fried up, lost his life energy, all of that jazz, and Mimosa brought him back, essentially. So definitely something needs to happen to Mimosa. But I ain't gonna lie, yeah, I'm definitely disappointed with what happened with Gaja. I said it multiple times now that, like, okay, you know, this is bad, but hey, he'll probably die once the Valhalla spell falls. And now him surviving entirely, the only other thing I can think of is maybe Tabata has very, very big plans for some other tragic moments down the road, and because we're only on like level 1 technically, we haven't even opened up the gates of hell fully yet. He doesn't want to have people dying left and right, because then, you know, we're gonna go like in a Kame got kill route if he just keeps on killing people. So maybe it's something big. Maybe, I don't know, he's planning on, oh, he does this, I don't know how I feel. Maybe he's planning on killing like Yami by the end of it. I feel more though it would be William Vengeance, like, because who the fuck gives a fuck about William Vengeance? But maybe I could see Vengeance dying. I hope not Yami, but maybe that's what it is. He has a big death plan that's gonna shock everyone, and that's why he's like, let's not do it now, but still. But going back to it, Loro says, all of that for somebody like me, you know, she can't believe that Gaja did all of that, and she's just happy, you know, that he's healed up now and shit like that, but she's still like, you know, she's nervous and, you know, quirky and all that jazz. So she's like, whoa, you did this for me, that's crazy. And he's like, nah, ho, that's my duty as a spirit guardian, bitch. That would have spiced things up, wouldn't it? But then, Gaja, I guess the healing powers gave him King Kong-sized cojones, because following that, he just straight up looks at Loropechika. He's like, yo, shawty, I want to lay you in my mattress. He just straight up confesses to her on some grown man shit. I love you, and I'm not just talking about like as my queen or anything like that. Like, I love you as a woman that, you know, I want to call you my orange soda shorty, you know what I'm saying? Like, yo, yeah, he basically confesses he loves her. And he's cut off before he could finish his sentence, because he's like, what I feel for you is, and then you see Noelle and, you know, Loropechika and everybody just being embarrassed, like, holy shit, he actually went all the way, which, hey, this is a good example for you kiddos. Like, this is, you know, Noelle, if you feel like that for Asta, go for it. Tell him, hey, I want you slong, lad. But thankfully, and this is where I felt like, because I really just want to move on. Like, for me personally, I just want to move on. I'm disappointed. I don't like it that Gaja survived, all of that jazz. But rather than me go on a rant like I probably normally would do, because I love Black Clover so much, I just want to move the fuck on from this shit. I just want to, please, like, Gaja, you've been healed up. Now move the fuck aside. I hope in the next battle, whatever happens, like, he just gets knocked out cold and just leave the story alone right now, Gaja. Like, I got a bad taste in my mouth for you, because thankfully, Nozel is like, yo, let's change the subject to something that is more hype. Let's change the subject to the best character of the entire story. Let's talk a little bit about Yami, because he, in his mind, thanks Yami and has to give the respect, which I hope he does actually vocally. Like, a lot of these, I feel like these things that should be confessions outward, they're just monologuing them within. Like, yeah, no, this should be said nevertheless, because he's like, as irritating as it is, it was because of that guy that ultimately Noelle was able to, you know, get stronger, and he's referring to Yami, and then he says, we gotta save Yami no matter what. And I found that to be very hilarious, and I'm gonna tell you why I find that hilarious. Ain't nobody talking about saving Vengeance. No one gives a fuck about William Vengeance, and rightfully so, because at the end of the day, we cannot mistake for a second that he was a traitor to the Clover Kingdom. Some people should still have a sour taste in their mouth for Vengeance, even though he had a very serious issue, a serious case of bipolar disorder. Ultimately, it was still Vengeance, and maybe you could argue that's why also Nozel is like, oh, I'm not going to mention Vengeance. Like, yeah, we save him, but I got to save Yami right now. He's the one that helped my sister out. That other dude, that's how, at the very least, I attribute why he didn't bring up Vengeance. Like, yeah, he mentioned Yami because at the end of the day, that's the one that trained up his sister, but Vengeance, you know, he's also a captain you should be thinking about saving, and the fact that he didn't say that, again, I'm going to attribute that, yeah, he was a traitor. Like, we're not that pressed about it. And then in the background, Noct is acknowledging again to himself, not actually saying it out loud, that all of these kids, you know, they gotten a lot stronger than he anticipated they could, which I think he's talking about Mimosa turning into Shenron. No. And he says, just one left now that, you know, they defeated Megicula, and he's referring to Zenon, because boom, we got two of them down. Dante took the L, and then Vonica and Megicula took the L, which technically I'd still say there's two, because Lucifero could still very well jump to somebody else. Like, Lucifero ain't done. Dante is done, but Lucifero wasn't, like, Lucifero didn't come out of Dante, and we didn't have to fight Lucifero. We only fought Dante, so I still wouldn't say that there's only one left. I'd say technically there's still, in a way, two left. But then when it cuts to the next scene, and it says, shortly before the end of the Megicula battle, immediately that signified to me that by the end of the Zenon versus Yuno fight, Asta and them are gonna run up in there. And that's why I think Tabata put that there, so that, like, yeah, we could see a little bit of them having a fight uninterrupted, and then by the end of it, like right now, they're probably leaving, and they're gonna catch the end of the Yuno fight, and maybe either jump in or something like that. I hope not. I want Yuno to, you know, avenge his family, avenge his kingdom, because at the end of the day, let's not forget, he's royalty. You know, the Spade Kingdom technically is his. Like, I want him to do it on his own. I think it would be dope. Like, Tabata, give Yuno a really good moment, give Yuno a great moment at that, and showcase him standing on his own too. I think that would be awesome, but it kind of makes me think that, yeah, everybody's gonna get involved by the end of it, and that's why he's showing moments before the end of Megicula's battle, because while Megicula and them, you know, were fighting, Yuno was fighting Zenon, but by the end of it, they're gonna run up in there. But we see Zenon in like a devil form, which I want to say it looks slightly different than the form that we've seen before we cut away from him. Looked pretty creepy, not gonna lie. And he says, we're only wasting time, I'll end this, because Xenon's probably like, yo fam, we've been fighting for how long now? Let's wrap this one up. And Linegris basically says, gee willikers, Yuno, what will we do? And Yuno was on some Goku shit. He's like, fam, just buy me 3 minutes, I'm gonna finish him with my next attack, and the chapter ends off there. I'm excited about that battle. I'm not gonna lie, like, I'm gonna be weary moving forward in Black Clover's arc, you know, this arc in particular, this whole Spade Nation invasion, war against the demons, all of this and whatnot. Like, I'm gonna be weary, but I am excited about seeing Yuno versus Zenon and the climax to that. But yeah, I ain't gonna lie, this chapter wasn't it. This chapter was absolutely not it, with God just surviving. This would have been a perfect moment to grow up Loropechika. She could have grow up and grow out of that whole phase of, oh, I'm nervous, because again, seeing the death of her faithful servant would have been impactful. It could have showed more danger to this arc. It could have shown a casualty at the hands of Megicula, because who's died in this whole fight against this kingdom. But I'm curious what you guys think. You watching right now, how did you feel about this chapter? How did you feel about Gaja surviving? Yay, nay, your expectations for the Yuno versus Zenon battle, and your overall thoughts of everything going on and moving forward with Black Clover chapter 305 and beyond. Yeah, I just want to move on. I just want to get to the next shit already. Like, I want to forget about this Gaja shit because it is very disappointing. But that's all I have for this one. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you liked anything I had to say or enjoyed the video, drop me a like. I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you want more from me, make sure to subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram. Hit that bell to get all notifications. And if you want to follow any of my other social media, links are in the description below. I'm ForneverWorld, and as always, people, have an awesome day. And remember the golden rule: anime and manga for life. Bye. Have an awesome day. Peace in. And yeah, fam, we altering reality. We're gonna overrule reality moving forward. Please, God, no. Tabata, please don't ever say some shit like that again. Have an awesome one.
So just go to